You have one day at Universal Orlando Resort. How do you spend it? I'm about to show you in this video. I started in front of the Hogwarts Express at Universal Studios Florida because I do think you need a park-to-park ticket to maximize your one day at the park. So a park-to-park ticket allows you to take the Hogwarts Express from Universal Studios Florida or Islands of Adventure or vice versa. It is a different story each way. But let's just get started with the video. I'm gonna head into Diagon Alley. So of course you have to visit the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Diagon Alley. My first tip is to not miss it. So a lot of people just walk right by it and don't realize there's a whole area behind this brick wall. So let's head inside. So you want to plan for at least, I'd say you're gonna budget about 2 hours for Diagon Alley alone. There is a lot to do here, and this is, in my opinion, the best area at Universal Studios Florida. So the Leaky Cauldron is probably the most unique lunch or dinner option at Universal Studios Florida. You can see the menu here. Not my favorite menu in the world, but if you're into this type of food, I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. It will probably take a little bit longer than some of the other options I'm mentioning in this video. The gift shops are also extremely unique. So you have Weasley's Wizard Wheezes here, the kind of joke shop, but there is also Sugar Plum Sweet Shop, in addition to a lot of different shops here. I have another video where I talk about my 5 things you have to buy in the Wizarding World, so be sure to watch that video as well. So if I only have one day, I'm probably skipping the hopping pot. As you can see, a little busy, and there's quicker places to get a beverage. This is tough for me. In Diagon Alley, there is a stage show. There's actually 3 stage shows. So there's Celestina Warbeck and the Banshees, and then there's Tales of Beetle the Bard, and there's actually 2 variations of that show. It's really tough for me. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see all 3 if you're only visiting for one day, and even seeing one is going to take up quite a lot of time. So I would probably see a couple minutes of Celestina Warbeck if you can. The showtimes will be on the Universal app, but I probably wouldn't stick around for a full show or see all 3 just because you're constricted on only having one day. Gringotts Money Exchange, another cool little thing you can do. You can talk to the goblin in there. However, I don't think you'll have time. I'd probably skip this one. At this corner across from Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts is Ollivander's. That's another thing, it's just going to take a little bit of time. If you're a huge Harry Potter fan, I'd probably make some time for it, and basically they pick one person out of about a party of 10 and let a wand choose the wizard. So pretty cool, no guarantee you'll be the one picked, but if you're a huge Harry Potter fan, I'd probably do it. Obviously that brings me to Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, which currently has a 90-minute wait, so this is going to take a chunk of your day probably, but it is definitely worth it in my opinion. It is the main attraction in Diagon Alley, a really cool, almost like a roller coaster, but it's 3D with some story moments as well. Definitely worth checking out. You have Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlor with really unique ice cream flavors, but you can see the line goes out the door and down Diagon Alley. This is one of the most popular places in Diagon Alley, and I am filming this during spring break for full disclosure. So if you're asking me, you're probably going to have to pick like 1 or 2 snacks for your whole day. I would consider this one, but again, it's going to be usually a decent wait. So I think it probably depends on how big of an ice cream fan you are. They have butterbeer ice cream. Another really unique flavor is chocolate chili ice cream. So it's chocolate ice cream, but it has a little bit of kick. It's a really interesting flavor. Fountain of Fair Fortune. This is where I would go to grab your butterbeer. They also have real beer. This is usually a lot faster than the hopping pot. They also have butterbeer ice cream, so they can go behind the counter and get you some butterbeer ice cream. So if you're only interested in butterbeer ice cream, you don't have to wait at Florian Fortescue's. You can just go to the Fountain of Fair Fortune. Throughout Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, you have interactive wand spots. There's 2 actually right here. There's one with this umbrella and then one with the lights up here. You're probably not going to have time to do a lot of interactive spells. I think you could purchase an interactive wand and do 1 or 2 spells, but doing a lot of spells is probably going to be out of the question if you only have one day. Nocturne Alley is great because it is air conditioned, so if you're waiting for the rest of your party, maybe if you're skipping Gringotts, but you want some AC, you can catch some AC in Nocturne Alley, in addition to just being a really cool, creepy area of Diagon Alley. Maybe give the night bus conductor and the shrunken head a quick wave as you go on. In San Francisco, you basically have 4 different things here. The one I do recommend is Che Alcatraz behind me. They have 2 really popular drinks. They have the Shark Attack, which is a popular alcoholic drink, and then they have the Shark Friendly, which is the children's version of it. I personally don't drink alcohol, so I get the Shark Friendly. And then also in San Francisco, there is Lombard Seafood Grill. Not bad, but it is a full-service restaurant, and if you only have one day, I don't know if that's what I would choose to spend it at. However, there's also Richter's Burger, which is a quick service like burger place. Again, not what I would pick for my one meal or lunch meal or my one dinner meal. And then there is Fast and Furious Supercharged, which is a newer attraction here, which I would skip. Fast and Furious Supercharged is a slow-moving bus ride. If you're a huge fan of the franchise, maybe it's worth checking out. Next up is World Expo, which has shrunk over the years. Right now it's just Men in Black Alien Attack, and then there is also Fear Factor Live. Fear Factor Live has been closed since the pandemic, so that leaves Men in Black. I do think Men in Black's worth riding. If you have the extra time, I would ride Men in Black. So it's a shooter ride. You are zapping aliens, and there's two sides. You're competing with another team to zap aliens based off the Men in Black movie. It's a lot of fun. We have a page on OrlandoFormer.com with a guide on how to get the most high score possible. So be sure to check that out. My biggest tip is to hold down the trigger the entire ride. Every 6 seconds or 6 shots, you get points. So keep that trigger held down on your zapper. We have made it to Springfield, USA in Universal Studios, Florida. So this is a real interesting area. So it started with just the Simpsons ride. It was Back to the Future, and then they replaced it with the Simpsons ride. And then they built the land around it. So at one point it was just the Simpsons ride, and then Springfield kind of popped up around it, which is pretty cool. So if you only have one day here, I don't know if I'd do the Simpsons ride. I think it would depend on how big of a Simpsons fan you are. If you're a huge Simpsons fan, then yeah, you should definitely do it. But like a lot of things, like I think it's going to depend on how busy the day is to depend if you want to do the Simpsons ride. The other ride here is Kang and Kodo's Twirl and Hurl. So it tends to have a little bit of a wait, and it's obviously not like a big ticket attraction, so I would probably skip that one. This is a good food option if you're looking for a lot of variety, but you're looking for a quick service restaurant. Fast Food Boulevard is really interesting because it has stations for a lot of different foods. So you have like the pizza, hot dogs, crusty burgers. I don't personally like crusty burgers. You've got Flaming Moe's at the bar, which they put dry ice in the bottom. It's like an orange flavored drink with that actually like smokes up because it's got dry ice at the bottom. So I would consider Fast Food Boulevard for your one-day meal, maybe, depending on how much time you want to spend. If you don't want to spend much time, I think it's a good option. You got a big family. And then Simpsons, again, back and forth. I think it depends on how big of a Simpsons fan you are. I forgot to talk about the Bumblebee Man's taco truck. It's right at the entrance of Springfield, and this is a really tasty option. The food is really good, but it is a little bit slower than some of the other options, and there's only 3 taco options. So you have to like tacos, but if you have the extra time, I do think this is one that you should consider stopping by because, again, pretty high quality tacos here. And then there is Lard Lad's Donuts and ice cream. The most distinct thing here is the big pink donut, which you can get at the gift shop, the Quickie Mart, a lot faster than the stand usually. However, they do have a donut sundae, so something to consider, but again, I'd probably skip it if you only have one day. So in Woody Woodpecker's Kidzone, the main attraction is the E.T. Adventure. I do recommend this one. This one you can kind of skip this whole area because you kind of just walk by it if you're not paying attention. But I do recommend E.T. It's the oldest ride in the park, a lot of fun and a classic. There's also SpongeBob Store Pants, water slide, Five Holes water slide back here, Curious George ball pit, and water play area. To me, the thing to check out in this whole area is the E.T. Adventure. If you're a big SpongeBob fan, maybe SpongeBob Store Pants. And Animal Actors is cool, but not something I would do if I only had one day. The DreamWorks Destination is the newest addition to Kidzone. So if you're visiting with younger children, I think this would be something that's maybe worthwhile stopping at. Otherwise, you probably don't need to stop. Just DreamWorks characters and a little dance show. So a lot of fun if you have a big family, but otherwise, definitely you can skip it if you only have one day. Woody Woodpecker's Nut House Coaster is behind me. It's the oldest roller coaster in the theme park. Something you can probably skip if you're not visiting with a family, but it is a cool little small, good starter ride. So you can see the ball pit behind me, the Curious George ball pit. It is a really cool thing that I feel like a lot of people don't know is here, but I don't think I would necessarily go if you only had one day. It is really fun though. New York is a really bustling area of Universal Studios Florida. There's a lot to talk about here. So the first thing you'll see is Racing Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon, which is an indoor motion simulator starring Jimmy Fallon, as the name would imply. I think it's probably skippable if you only have one day here. However, on the opposite end, you have Revenge of the Mummy, which is currently closed until late summer of this year in 2022. However, if Revenge of the Mummy is open when you're here, it is a must ride. It is an indoor roller coaster with a launch. It is a lot of fun. It's probably the scariest ride at Universal Studios as well. Depends on what you're scared of. You have the indoor kind of speed versus Rip Ride Rockit does have the straight vertical lift, which a lot of people find scary. But anyway, Revenge of the Mummy is a must ride at Universal Studios Florida. Then you also have Finnegan's, which is a full-service Irish pub. There's also a bar inside as well. Probably wouldn't pick that as my meal. And then Starbucks is here as well. This is the only Starbucks within Universal Studios Florida, so if you need your cup of coffee, that's where you head to. So New York has the most shows out of any area in the Universal Studios. There is 4 shows. So there is Beat Builders on the facade of Louis, which are construction workers that also drum. It's like a play on words, Beat Builders. Anyways, you'll get it later. And then there is Blues Brothers, which is on Delancey Street, based off the Blues Brothers movie. That is my favorite show out of the 4 here. I would potentially make some time for that one. Again, I don't know if I'd check out the full show, but that would be the one I would pick. And then there's also Sing It, an a cappella singing show, and a Marilyn Monroe and the Diamond Bellas show as well. That one's right to the left of Revenge of the Mummy. And that is New York at Universal Studios Florida. I have made it to Production Central inside Universal Studios Florida, so there is quite a few attractions here. Right when you enter the park, there is Despicable Me Minion Mayhem, which is a motion simulator, more for families. If you don't have children, I probably would skip it. If you do have children, I think it's worth considering, especially if they're fans of the Minions franchise. It is super busy first thing in the morning. I probably wouldn't do it first thing in the morning. Behind me is Hollywood Riptide Rocket, the biggest roller coaster at Universal Studios Florida. I do think this is worth the stop. I will say that it can be rough at times, so just make sure you're okay with riding a rough roller coaster, but otherwise I think it is a lot of fun. You get to pick the music while you ride, and they do record certain clips on the ride. You can buy the video afterwards if you're interested. There is also Transformers, which is a 3D motion simulator. It is really interesting, but I would probably only pick between Transformers or Spider-Man. So I think you would want to choose one. They're both very similar rides, and since you only have one day, I would probably choose between the two. So I'd pick whichever one you are a bigger fan of. There was also a Shrek 4D ride that was located in Production Central, but it has since closed. They haven't announced what's replacing it, but there are Minions on all the construction walls, so maybe by the time you're watching this, they have announced the replacement ride, but it's not expected to open this year in 2022. Keep an eye on my YouTube channel and Orlando Informer, and we'll share anytime there is new announcements. In Hollywood, there are quite a few things to check out. You have Mel's Drive-In, which is like cheeseburgers and chicken tenders, things like that. Probably wouldn't be what I picked for lunch. You have Horror Makeup Show over to the left here, and that is a really funny comedy slash special effects show. Again, if you only have one day, I don't know if you're gonna have time because there's a show coming up that I recommend more than that, so you probably have to skip it. Behind me, the loud noise is the Superstar Parade comes out and does like little character meet and greets. So that's cool to check out. Again, probably wouldn't make extra time for it, but if you stumble upon a character back there, that'd be neat. There is Williams of Hollywood, which is a prop shop right to my right. They'll sell used things in the theme park that you can buy. If you're coming from out of state, I don't know if you're gonna be able to fit it in your suitcase though, because some of them are pretty big. The last thing in Hollywood that I wanted to point out was the Bourne Stuntacular. It's Universal's newest show, and I highly, highly recommend it. So it is a stunt show based off the Bourne film franchise. Highly, highly recommend again. I think it is a lot of fun. It will take up probably about 45 minutes to an hour of your day, depending on when you're visiting, but it is worth it in my opinion. I really, really like it. If you're walking into Islands of Adventure and not taking Hogwarts Express, you'll enter through Port of Entry. There are no rides in Port of Entry, but there is a Starbucks, Cinnabon, the main gift shop, and a candy shop, and the photo store as well, all in Port of Entry. It's one of my favorite areas. I do like to stop and just listen to the different audio, and lots of cool little Easter eggs hidden in Port of Entry. There is one other full-service restaurant in Port of Entry, Confisco Grill. I do really like the entryway to Confisco Grill. The storyline is that something has been confiscated from each island. So if you look up when you enter Confisco, you can find different items confiscated from each island, but it is not the full-service restaurant that I would pick. Later on in this video, I'll recommend a few other restaurants that I prefer. Inside Marvel Super Island, you have the Incredible Hulk coaster right behind me. They recently redid it like 5 or so years ago, so it is still pretty fresh. They added music composed by one of the members of Fall Out Boy, so there's on-ride music now on the Incredible Hulk coaster if you haven't been here in a while. I definitely think you have to ride the Hulk coaster. It's a must-do. You get launched out 60 miles an hour from the tube, so it is a pretty fun ride. There's also the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which is the ride I spoke about earlier when I was talking about Transformers. Like I said, I would pick one of the two, and I think I would pick Spider-Man for most people. And then also in Marvel Super Island is Doctor Doom's Fearfall. It is fun, probably wouldn't what I would do with just one day. There's also 2 restaurants, neither of which I would go to, Cafe 4 and Captain America Diner. Both of those, if you only have one day, I probably wouldn't make that my stop. And then there are superhero characters you can meet, and as well as some villains if you're lucky. Toon Lagoon is the land of water attractions. If you're visiting during a hot time of year, they might be of interest to you. If you're visiting during a cooler time of year, you're probably just going to skip these rides altogether. Behind me is Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat barges. So it is a circular raft ride where you get soaked. There's a slight chance you don't, but generally almost everybody gets soaked on this ride. So if you're looking to cool off very quickly, this one usually has the lowest weight out of the 3 water attractions here as well. So I'd recommend this one. Dudley Do-Ride's Ripsaw Falls, I think, is slightly more fun. You've got a really big drop. The wait's usually longer though. So out of the 2, I would pick probably Popeyes if I only had one day. There is also 3 restaurants in Toon Lagoon. So there is Wimpy's, which has a Wellington burger. I would actually recommend this one. So if you're looking for something quick and a nice burger, I think the Wellington burger at Wimpy's is the best burger in Islands of Adventure. There's also Comic Strip Cafe, which I don't really recommend, and then there is Blondie's, which is a sandwich restaurant. So out of the 3, I would definitely pick Wimpy's, but there's not a ton of like vegetarian options there. I do think they have like one vegetarian burger. Between Toon Lagoon and Jurassic Park is Skull Island Reign of Kong. It is a motion simulator ride where it's the same ride system as Fast and Furious. So if you've already ridden Fast and Furious, you can skip it, but otherwise I would check it out. Thunder Falls Terrace is the first restaurant you'll come across in Jurassic Park if you're entering from Toon Lagoon, and I highly recommend it. I think you should highly consider this one. You've got rice bowls, you've got rotisserie chicken, they have brookies for dessert, which are brownie cookies. That's one of my favorite desserts at Universal. Highly recommend Thunder Falls. Next to Thunder Falls is Jurassic Park River Adventure, which is the 3rd water attraction at Islands of Adventure. I do think it's worth the wait. If it's under 60 minutes, I would absolutely ride River Adventure. Thunder Falls is the restaurant. And then there is Camp Jurassic, which has Pteranodon Flyers in it. So Camp Jurassic is a children's play area, and it is the best children's play area, in my opinion, at both parks. So highly recommend it if you're bringing a family. And then Pteranodon Flyers does require a child within a certain height range. So if you don't have a child within a certain height range, you can't experience the attraction. And then, of course, the latest addition to Jurassic Park, and the thing you cannot miss, is Jurassic World Velocicoaster. We've done a lot of videos about Jurassic World Velocicoaster, and I'll leave a link to those. But this is Universal's newest attraction. It is a really intense, Universal's most intense roller coaster, and it tells a story along the way. I highly recommend it. It is a lot of fun. There she goes. In my opinion, the most intense part of Velocicoaster is right here. They go into this launch, and then it doesn't look that tall from this angle, but it is really tall. It's called a top hat up here at the top. So you're gonna see, there they go. So you can tell how long it takes them to get to the top, because it is quite the height up there. Like I mentioned earlier in Diagon Alley, Hogsmeade right behind me is going to be the area that you spend a lot of time in, probably multiple hours. There's 2 major attractions here. So the first one is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, which is the 2nd newest ride at Islands of Adventure, and it is a lot of fun. It is probably my favorite ride here at Islands of Adventure. You have to do it no matter how long the wait is. I'm sorry. So I would highly recommend it. It's a story coaster is what Universal calls it. So it like tells a story, and there's multiple launches, and basically the story is you're going through the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid. There's also Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, which is in Hogwarts Castle, and it is a motion simulator where you're on an enchanted bench that flies through the air. You join a Quidditch match and a lot more. It's fun as well, but it is pretty intense motion sickness wise. If you easily get motion sickness, you probably don't want to ride. And then there is 3 Broomsticks, which is a great quick service restaurant. If it's not too busy, I would maybe consider it for your lunch or dinner spot. It's usually less busy for dinner. There is also 2 different shows on the Pictish stage. So there is the Triwizard Spirit Rally, and then there is the Frog Choir. Out of those, I like the Triwizard Spirit Rally, but I wouldn't necessarily make time for either of them if I only have one day. And then, of course, there is the Hogwarts Express, which we're right outside of, and that will take you back to where I started this video at Universal Studios Florida. It does require a park-to-park ticket. Inside of Lost Continent has shrunk over the years, so there isn't as much nowadays. Right behind me is Poseidon's Fury. It just recently reopened like a week or 2 ago. It is a indoor like walk-through show. Great for air conditioning. If you only have one day, I don't know if it makes the cut, but it is pretty cool. If you have multiple days, I would definitely check it out. And it's, like I said, it was just refreshed. They just redid all the effects and it looks great. Also in Lost Continent is, in what my opinion, the best restaurant at Islands of Adventure, Mythos, is in Lost Continent. So if you're visiting during a busy time, you might need a reservation. If you're visiting during a slower time, you might not. It is a sit-down restaurant, so it's going to take like an hour and a half probably out of your day. Might not be worth it if you only have one day, but still something to worth considering. There's also a kebab restaurant off to your right if you're walking from Zeus Landing, and then off to your left is Fire Eaters. Both of those just quick service, chicken tenders, kebabs, things like that. Zeus Landing has the most complex names for attractions and shows and everything, so we're going to see how many of these I can mess up. Of course, the main attraction in Zeus Landing is the Cat in the Hat ride. I'm going to put this in the must-do category, especially if you're visiting with a family. I think it is a lot of fun. It's usually not a long wait. The air conditioning is great. In my last video, actually, or maybe my second to last video, I rode Cat in the Hat for the first time in a while. So I like Cat in the Hat. There's also one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish right behind me. This is it's a little bit of a water attraction. I know earlier in my video I said there's 3 attractions that are water rides at Islands Adventure. There's almost 4 because you can get pretty wet on one fish, two fish. In addition, there is Carousel, which is currently closed, but it is a carousel. Probably skippable if you're visiting with a young child. And then there is If I Ran the Zoo, which is a children's play area as well. In my opinion, not as fun as Camp Jurassic, but still pretty cool. There is Green Eggs and Ham, which serves tots, all kinds of tots. My favorite is the buffalo chicken tots. I highly recommend Green Eggs and Ham as maybe your snack location if you're only visiting for one day. There is a lot of good tots options at Green Eggs and Ham. There is also Circus McGurkus Cafe Stupendous. They have pretty good fried chicken, but probably not where I choose to eat. There is a candy shop, Snooker's Candy Cookers, I think. And Moose Juice is a little stand that has moose juice and goose juice. So those are the Zeus Landing food and beverage options. Of course, there's all kinds of shops as well that you can check out along the way. If I had to pick 2 things in Zeus Landing, though, again, it's going to be Cat in the Hat and the Green Eggs and Ham tots. Oh, I almost forgot. Wow, that was a close one. There's one other attraction as well. There's actually a lot of attractions in Zeus Landing if you think about it. There's the High in the Sky Zeus Charlie train ride, which I enjoy as well. Great views of the park, especially at night. If it's a low wait, I would consider it. Lately, it has not been a low wait though, so I probably would skip it if the wait's over 30 minutes. If you want an exact path of what to do on one day at both parks, visit orlandoformer.com/universal and go to touring plans one day, and we have a one-day outline of every attraction step by step. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you enjoyed the video, I've got another video you're really gonna like. It's what to do if you only have 90 minutes at Universal Studios Florida. So I show you how many rides can I do in 90 minutes at one theme park. I'll see you in the next video.